So next we have art. The traditional art of South America is varied as it is rich. From arts as ancient as pottery and textile weaving to the work of modern artists, their art expresses the history and culture of the people and region. And next we have the food supply and meal patterns of South America. Many of the staple foods in South America are mostly corn-based, topped with spicy seasonings. With many of the dishes served in this region, one will usually find corn and beans as an essential part due to the fertile soil and climate conditions. Now, many of the staple foods are based on the climate conditions. Different assortments of beef are served in areas where grazing is most suitable for the animal. For example, different parts of Peru allow more suitable conditions for animals to graze, while in other locations call for other methods like fishing to sustain a source. So in most meal patterns in South America, breakfast is usually light, similar to a typical continental breakfast. With lunch, it is usually the heaviest meal of the day and sometimes followed by a nap. Finally, the dinner is usually a normal moderation, not too heavy and not too light, of a meal and typically starts later in the evening. So starting with the protein group, we have milk. In this region, it is quite uncommon to actually drink milk alone. It is typically used in coffee or in some desserts. So, in proteins continued, this region is also very diverse with the meat and fish consumed. Here are just some of the interesting foods South Americans typically consume. As you can see, alligator, armadillo, frog, llama, rabbit, abalone, bass, catfish, crab, and even eel. South Americans and North Americans have a similar dietary consumption when it comes to both poultry and eggs as well as legumes. As I have stated previously, beans are a staple within this culture. Next we have the cereals and grains. Amaranth, corn, rice, quinoa, and wheat are some of the popular grains within this region. Due to such fertile land, South America typically produces these grains year-round and adds these to many of these dishes. So following our grains, we have our fruits and vegetables. Living in such an environment, tropical and temperate fruits can be produced. This includes mangoes, pears, grapes, and many others. Not only are fruits eaten separately, but are also sometimes used as fruit paste for toppings on some dishes. So on most dishes, as I stated before, spicy seasonings are topped off on the plate. These seasonings provide much of the flavor that accompanies the South American cuisine. Here we have just some of the copious amounts of seasoning that are used. Typically, some sort of chili will be used on a dish throughout a week in a typical South American household. In South America, many of the beverages they drink are very similar to the habits that we have here in the U.S. Coffee, tea, different soft drinks such as Coke and Pepsi are consumed. Many alcoholic beverages remain mostly the same, with the only difference being brand names for beer and wine. After our beverages, we have our fats and oils. The preparation of many of the foods used in South American culture use many of the oils that we use here at home. Dende oil is typically substituted as vegetable or peanut oil here in the United States. Next, we have some of the sweeteners of this region. In South America, one of the biggest exports in this culture is sugarcane. It's a big cash crop for this region. This is due to sugarcane's adaptability to be modified into molasses, rum, and ethanol. So here's just one of the traditional dinners one may have in Ecuador. We have fish ceviche, potato soup, fresh corn tamales, and a plantain or juice. As you can see, the staple foods are present within the traditional dish. And next we have kupa, which is boiled potatoes topped with cheese, with a cheese sauce and peanuts, and which is typically consumed in Peru. We also have yapingachos, which in Ecuador are typically consumed with beef and are made of potato cheese patties. And so, here is another staple of South American cuisine, picante, which uses an abundance of chili peppers, and salsa de ají, which is used as a condiment for most meals. So, here are just some fun facts about South American diets. Brazil produces about a third of the world's coffee. Traditional Argentinian dish, entambre, means to kill hunger. Herbal teas are usually used as natural remedies throughout the continent. And in Colombia, hormiga is a favorite dish made from fire ants. And so, nutritional status about the region. One of the main concerns of the region are parasites. Different parts of the food preparation process can sometimes be unsanitary and can lead to this type of infection. In different parts of the region, we see inadequate protein intake and also iron, iodine, and vitamin A deficiency. Heart disease, hypertension, and obesity have started becoming the consequences of the lifestyle choices in this region. The ideal body image for the woman here is not typical to the one here in the U.S. In the U.S., we consider women to be more slim and slender, but in this region it is encouraged that women are more plump in their appearance. Males are also encouraged to have a higher weight in this culture as well. We'll get much more in depth shortly. So, dietary patterns of South America from a nutritional perspective. So here are just some of the countries that are within the South American region. For the most part, the people of South America eat at similar times as we as Americans do. The middle class people, they eat 3 meals a day with some snacks in between. People who are in the lower class or who are living in poverty may only eat 1 or 2 meals a day, usually an early breakfast and a large dinner. For South Americans who are able to afford it, they incorporate coffee, toast, or possibly other types of pastries into their breakfast. Their lunches may have 4 courses including appetizers, salads, entrees, and desserts. Because of the large lunch, dinner tends to be lighter and later. Beer and wine are often consumed at mealtime, and afternoon breaks that include tea, coffee, and snacks are also common within the region. So here we have Brazil. Some of the common dietary foods: nuts, cashews, peanuts, black-eyed peas, black beans, pork, lamb, plantains, rice, sausage, coconut milk, pumpkin, coffee, okra, and seafood. So from a nutritional value, they get some high protein meats and nuts, but they also have high fat from the beef that they consume. They're typically low in calcium and vitamin D. They get healthy fats from coconut milk and seafood, some polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, as well as omega-3 fatty acids. In Peru and Ecuador, llama meat, seafood, chili peppers, peanuts, avocados, onions are some of the common dietary foods that we see here in this region. So some positive nutritional values is that a lot of the foods they consume are high in calcium and vitamin D. The negative, however, are high in starch from the potatoes and cholesterol from seafood. We do get some fiber from avocados, potassium from bananas or plantains, and vitamin C from orange juice. And so here are some common dietary foods from Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Uruguay, and Paraguay. Beef, strawberries, artichokes, spinach, eggs, bell peppers, pumpkin, cornmeal, and pasta. So some positive points about this part of the region is that they get a lot of high protein intake. They have some antioxidants from strawberries, vitamin C also from there, fiber, folic acid, iron, niacin, vitamin E, and zinc. The negative, however, is the high fat, cholesterol, and some high carbohydrates in some individuals, and also the caffeine from coffee. So next we have Colombia and Venezuela. So here are just some other commonly consumed items that we have. Pretty much, pretty much the same from each part of the region. So some positive notes from Colombia and Venezuela is the calcium, vitamin C, potassium, protein, and fiber. Then again, we see the caffeine as a negative factor, as well as starch, high fat, and some saturated fat. Guyana, here we have some other common dietary foods. Most of the staples are all within each of the common dietary foods. As we see from the nutritional value, they get some positive omega-3 fatty acids from fish, potassium from bananas and plantains. Some other elements we have is riboflavin, niacin, phosphorus, thiamine, magnesium, my apologies, and zinc from okra. But as again we have negatives, the fat, sugar, and some starch. Next we have our globalization of South America. So globalization, the definition is the tendency of businesses, technologies, or philosophies to spread throughout the world, or the process of making this happen. South America, or Latin America, has taken advantage of many opportunities pertaining to globalization. Use of its natural resources and techniques are utmost priority in globalization. So just some of the natural resources that we have here are gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, and petroleum. Some of the agriculture is papaya, pineapple, and guava. And next we have Brazil. It ranks in top 10 of the world economies. The continent is centered around the export of its natural resources, such as coffee and cocoa. So, Brazil is actually the world's largest exporter of coffee and was once the largest of cocoa. Both cocoa and coffee are considered cash crops because they are significant on the economy. So here are just some pictures of them. So here's some challenges in globalization. South America lost its position in exports of cocoa because of a fungi that spread through most of South America's cocoa plantations. Although, in 2014 it is reported South American exports were worth about $595 billion in the U.S. South American exports also represent approximately 3.2% of the total world exports. So some of the South American technologies. They were the first continent to discard petroleum from plastic. The Braskem company in South America has found a way to use sugarcane instead of the use of petroleum, which was a much more scarce resource. So and here's just a picture of the sugarcane process. Sugarcane ethanol converts into ethylene, the hydrocarbon raw material that goes in the plastic, which will actually reduce the greenhouse gas. So just a little bit about this stadium. It was the first stadium ever built with solar power, and since making the stadium, other countries have taken the idea to build their stadiums with solar power roofs, such as the dragon-shaped stadium in Taiwan and the Bordeaux Stadium. So let's review a little bit of South America. It's the fourth largest continent, rich in biodiversity, Andes Mountains, Amazon River, Atacama Desert, 12 independent nations, 2 dependent territories, and the governments, mostly democratic republics, religion, big in Roman Catholicism, and have close family ties. And as you can see, the staple foods in many of the traditional dishes, and cash crops are coffee and cocoa. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and please click on the link to learn more. Thank you.